Everyone knows about German history, right? It's everywhere. Books, movies, and monuments. Germans have used everything to expose and examine their past and their guilt. But one particularly dark chapter does not get as much attention: the country's colonial history. Most Germans we approached here in Berlin couldn't find their country's former colonies on a map.
Ich würde halt eher sagen, so hier in der Gegend, aber ich weiß es nicht so genau.
Ich würde behaupten, hier. Und ich möchte nichts Falsches sagen, aber ich bin vielleicht der Meinung, dass es auch im Süden von Afrika Kolonien gab.
Oh, das ist so peinlich. Ist es so ein Idiotentest oder so?
Also ich denke, es ist Westafrika zu einem großen Teil gewesen, deutsche Kolonie, weil es vom Seeweg her gut rangekommen ist. Ne? Und mehr könnte ich jetzt nicht dazu sagen.
So why do Germans know so little about their colonial history? Before World War I, the German Empire was the third biggest in the world. The colonies covered regions that are now these countries. Imperial Germany sent troops to control the colonies. They brutalized local people and used them as forced workers and soldiers. They shipped thousands abroad as slaves, and they plundered the colonies, exporting things like ivory, diamonds, and coca. When the Herero and Nama people in present-day Namibia rebelled, the Germans slaughtered them. Best estimates suggest German imperial troops killed up to 100,000 people. It was the first genocide of the 20th century. The riches of empire were concentrated in small pockets of Germany, like Hamburg. It was home to the trade and shipping industries connecting Germany with its colonies. The profits turned Hamburg into a metropolis second only to the capital Berlin. Both cities still have street names and monuments in memory of the colonies and the men behind them. There is no way it could be forgotten in Africa, but in Germany, which profited so greatly, there are two main reasons why people know very little. One of them is the education system.
Also was die Vermittlung von Kolonialismus betrifft und dass er eben nicht vermittelt wird in der schulischen Bildung und auch nicht an den Universitäten, ja, das ist ein Desiderat, also das ist eine Lehrstelle. Der Rassismus und mein Arbeitsfeld ist insbesondere der antischwarze Rassismus, ist natürlich allgegenwärtig und strukturiert auch unsere Gesellschaft, strukturiert weiße Blicke auf schwarze Menschen, strukturiert was in den Schulen gelehrt wird, was in den Curricula auftaucht.
These are two popular history school books for 16 to 18-year-olds. They only have a few pages on colonialism, and the content is less than enlightening. We looked at other history books and school curricula. Some had nothing at all on colonial history, and those that did had very little.
If we compare internationally, in most societies the colonial past is not very present. But it's probably even more so in Germany, and that's for a variety of reasons. One of them being that in Germany the colonial past ended just much longer ago than elsewhere. And for that reason it has largely been forgotten in public discourse. The second reason is clearly the role of the Holocaust in public memory. In the German context, the Holocaust is the dominant memory, and that has led to the marginalization of all kinds of other memories.
Individual teachers often face that dilemma alone. In history lessons that must cover the Holocaust, how much of the remaining teaching time should they dedicate to colonialism? Often they stick to the prescribed curriculum, which doesn't give much space to colonial history. The Black Lives Matter movement in Germany says this ignorance of the colonial era is important. They say it's one reason for today's structural racism.
Natürlich war eben auch Rassismus als Legitimationsmaschine des Kolonialismus etwas, was dort schon angelegt war. Und Rassismus ist natürlich etwas, was nach wie vor eine der absoluten kolonialen Kontinuitäten darstellt. Ich meine, es sind auch immer wieder schwarze Menschen zu Tode gekommen und all diese Übergriffe, diese Aggressionen und dieses Mörderische in unserer Gesellschaft ist Kind des gleichen Mindsets und der gleichen Denkbewegung.
Many suggest that because Germans generally don't examine that era, they don't challenge the thinking that has come from it.
Das Problem sind nicht schwarze Menschen. Rassismus als Problem ist eigentlich das Problem von weißen Menschen. Nur arbeiten wir uns unermüdlich daran ab, also als schwarze Communities. Und es wird Zeit, dass weiße Menschen beginnen, über Rassismus zu sprechen.
Germans are changing some street names and are starting to discuss what to do with colonial statues. Some feel they don't fit into a modern country because they honor the perpetrators of historical crimes, rather than marking what they did or giving voice to those they persecuted. The thought follows that making the German colonial era part of the country's collective memory might help in tackling today's racism.
There is sometimes a convenient way of delegating the colonial issue to the past, and that's a way of not speaking about racism in the present.
A wider understanding of colonial history could help today's debates. But would people be interested?
Also wir gehen ja gerade noch zur Schule. Wir haben ein bisschen über Afrika und so geredet, aber so Afrika ist jetzt wirklich kein Thema. Finde ich auch schade so, aber ja.
Ja, man sollte lehren und vor allen Dingen auch Lehren ziehen. Das finde ich ganz wichtig.
Wäre vielleicht gut gewesen, wenn ich mich selber ein bisschen informiert hätte darüber. Aber ja.